put that motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you. That's carried. Brilliant. So now we're up to number 19, and we'll have this one, and we'll have break for lunch. So, Alec, please, you're very patiently sitting there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take the report as read. I think the only change since the report was written is we have had a couple of government consultations released. So one is to do with agri-plastics through the Ag Recovery Foundation. So that'll affect more rural environments than maybe the city environment. And that's on a stewardship scheme that's been introduced to make it mandatory, so it'll apply across the whole country. It's actually been running for about 18 years, but it's a voluntary scheme at the moment, so that'll deal with sort of farm waste. And the second one that's come out recently is they're reviewing the Waste Minimisation Act and the Litter Act, and they're making some changes there. And effectively, in summary, for the Waste Minimisation Act, they're looking to introduce the extended producer responsibility concept. So they just want to get the legislative framework in place so they can then enable more schemes as they come online. They're changing the waste disposal levy, and not the allocation amount that we get as council, but how it's subdivided. So they're introducing a flat fee, which means that smaller councils will get a more guaranteed fixed amount. So if they were hiring staff, for example, they know that that's a guaranteed income over the period. The levy will continue to escalate and go up, so we will just adjust our budgets as and when the government signals those amounts. And the Litter Act, I guess the main thing there is they're dropping the term illegal dumping and calling it mismanaged waste. And they're putting through a number of proposals as to how councils can strengthen their compliance and sort of general enforcement response to that. But as far as the report goes, it's pretty much business as usual. There's nothing untoward that's popped up. Everything's on trend, and all the contracts are performing within expectations.
Yeah, Mark's got a question. Yeah. Paul needs to move. Yeah.
Also happy to second it when it comes to it.
And Mark is a seconder.
Just wondered, Alec, if it's worth giving us around the table and also those in TV land a quick update on where things are at regards to the organics processing facility.
Yep. So just to recap, the organics processing application went in last July. There was some delays at ECAN that extended the time frame. So effectively the project now is 6 months later than what we initially anticipated. And the further caveat there is it's the application process is still to be determined. So they made the application limited notification. We're advised that the hearings for that are in June. I think it's the 9th and 10th, or the 10th and 11th. So obviously the Commissioner will hear those responses from the limited parties and whoever else contributes, and then they'll go away and deliberate and make their decisions. So probably by end of June, early July, the applicant, Ecogas, will know where they stand, and then they'll give us a projected a change to the project timeline. That's assuming obviously it does go through and they do get consent, but that's in the hands of the regulators at the moment. So I mean, that's positive news because the process is progressing, and we should know by July where we stand, and then we'll be able to give a more accurate forecast as to when the new facility will open and when we'll do the transition from Bromley to Hornby.
So sorry, just so I'm on the right track, with tailwind and everything going with us, there should be a consent in someone's hand end of July-ish.
Yeah, if the outcome of the process is successful, then yeah, that's the sort of time frame. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And the only reservation we've got is what are the conditions that go with that consent, and do we need to adjust the contract framework or the project time frame in response to that?
One question from me. Sometimes, and it hasn't happened for a long time, with the commodity price going down at Eco Central, sometimes we've had to top them up because it's been so poor. How are we looking at the moment? Is it holding its own, or are we looking all right, or what?
Yeah, there's a couple of... So we've got a different mechanism now from what you experienced before. There's a quarterly update from Eco Central, and that obviously adjusts the base price, the processing fee, based on the commodity values. So at the moment, the likes of aluminium is ascending and is rising, but it's the smaller volume, and fibre is going down. The effect of the tariffs will kick in eventually if they're held in place. So it's not so much for the movement of the recycling, it's the supply and demand knock-on effect that it will create within the manufacturing and sort of retail market. So the OG paper mill closed last year, so that 500,000 tonnes got put on the market, and we've had the market's reaction to that, so that price has gone down slightly in response to that. But obviously if demand slows and production drops, then the supply of the recycling is still the same, so the price for that then drops because there's more available. So, but at the moment we're okay, we're fine. The movements aren't significant, and our budget is actually still based on a much worse case than we're currently experiencing. So there's no budget impact at the moment.
Thank you. No, that's good. Mark, please. Oh, and then Yanni.
Yep, sorry, I just wanted to carry on that ecogas update. I gather ecogas are continuing in the background with design, and I think it's a technical advisory group being used as well.
Yeah, their project plan hasn't really stopped because of the situation with the consent. They're still carrying on with their own procurement process. So at the moment they've looked at the civils. Everything's basically been awarded contingent on the consent being issued. They've got through the equipment design, so that's the dual lines, the AD, the whole system is all now in play, and they've got a couple of suppliers, technical suppliers, that will help them with that. And then the other aspects, the sort of the hazardous profile of the site and that whole risk assessment, etc. All that works in plan. So, yeah, they haven't really stopped simply because the consent is running behind the initial schedule. Yeah.
Yep, very good. And then thinking about the existing OPP site out in Bromley, are we talking with parties such as like ECAN around the idea of potential future use for it, or is it just purely community?
We've initiated that conversation. It's not a regulator matter yet. We need to determine what we want the site to become. So we met with the local board and had the initial discussion with them. We've gone through what I would call an internal process that will be concluding probably in the next few weeks, probably by the end of the month. So that's where we reach out to other council departments and say, look, some or all of this site is coming up for potential use. Do you have a use for it as a department? So we're getting those responses back, and then we'll come back to council, to the LT, and say this is where we've landed. And then once we're clear on what is and isn't available, then we would go back to the community and open it up for them to give us their thoughts on what the future of the site could be.
Yep.
Thank you.
One of the thoughts that I think Councillor Johansson was mentioning was potentially ECAN with bus depot or something like that. So just want to understand whether that's
some things to look at in the future. Yep. Yanni, then Pauline, then lunch. Got it? Everyone? Got it?
Yeah, thanks. I'm just looking at our website, and then I'm looking at the EcoGas website and the ECAM website. There's no clear time frame for the new organics plant that I can see. And I'm just wondering, is there a way we can put the key milestones in a simple, easy to understand way that the community can see where things are at and what progress is being made? Because I'm just like, I appreciate we're in the consenting stage, but you've also talked about other things being done. And we do have the, obviously we have the liaison group update. But I don't think we've had one recently. I'm not sure if you're aware, but ECAN have set a date for the consent, the 11th of June hearing. So is there any way we can just get a really easy to understand time frame of the key milestones and see how work's progressing? Yeah.
Yes, we can look at that and we can update it, yeah. I mean, obviously we'll get the revised programme once the consent process has completed, but we can look at the information that's on the website just now and then adjust it to reflect what we currently know.
Yeah, I think that'd be really useful. And then, do we know who the commissioners are? Have we been advised?
No, we're miles away from that.
Oh, no, they appointed the commissioners on the 30th of April.
Does it matter?
Oh, well.
Not
Okay.
Alex's department.
Just a final question from me around that whole glass recycling. Where have we got to with that? Are we getting?
With glass recycling?
Yeah, like remember we're doing the Eco Drop's got the special trial, and I think it's going really well.
Yeah.
But is there another report back to us on options for glass recycling or co-mingling?
You'll see that come through there'll be a procurement plan coming to you in the next couple of months for the future waste management minimisation services contracts, and that will include the glass out option in that. Yeah.
Thank you. And Pauline,
I've
please.
got about 1 minute. So the curbside collection, the contamination seems to be increasing, and the rejected trucks. So I'm just wondering, have you thought about bringing back the Gold Star program, because that really had a positive impact on reducing that contamination? We got right down to what, Lynette, I don't know, 2% or something really low. So are you concerned that it's increasing?
No, I think there are week-on-week variations, but generally we're at the bottom of the curve for contamination. If you go back a couple of years, we were having hundreds of loads, occurrences a week, and now we're down to single figures. The audit programme, we haven't discontinued that. We've kept that going. We're actually in discussion with the contractor about how we can boost that and actually put more resources into that. But that's still working. We're still withdrawing bins if people ultimately break the 3-strike rule, the Gold Star system, etc., is still all in place. So, no, I mean, I think on the scale of the system and the amount of lifts we do each week, there is an attrition rate. There'll always be rejected loads. The key is that we have a facility that actually checks the loads as they come in, rather than us just accepting them, and then that would slowly over time start to
So
increase.
maybe the way you've presented that data looks worse than it is. So
Right.
it'd be quite good to have that in a graph or something. I think we used to have that on page 259 when you've got your tonnes of rejected loads of greater than 10% contamination. And when you've got in March, the number's 46, in October it was 6, but you're saying 46 is still low. So we need to have some sort of a way to actually see that that is not
There's a
high.
couple of sources of contamination. There's loads that get rejected because they've been visually checked and they don't pass the 10% visual check.
Yep.
But then when the waste actually goes through the sorting process, there's an amount of residual waste that comes out of that.
Yeah, that's the table underneath.
Yeah,
Yep.
but that might not necessarily break the 10% threshold to reject the load. So there'll always be some non-conforming material in the material, rubbish in the material
Yeah.
flow.
Thank you, that's
Thank
great.
you. Right, thanks, Alec. That's great. So we've got a mover and seconder, so no debate. I'll throw that out there. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thanks. That's carried. So very good. And we'll be here at 2:00.